We are here to make our teaching better or to improve our teaching here. But the question is that whether we want to walk out of our comfort zone to challenge or to embrace different kinds of, I say, beliefs or ideologies, or you call pedagogies. Today I'd like to address some of the issues which seem to be very significant in enhancing our students' effectiveness in learning a foreign language, especially English. For the past 20 years, Ministry of Education has made a lot of efforts in promoting that kind of so-called EMI, English and Medium Instructions, especially in English classrooms. But to be honest with you, it doesn't work. Why? Especially in the junior high school. Maybe in the elementary school, it's good for you because you just have you have fun, you just want to play games, you just, make your student feel interested in your English classes. But in junior high school, most teachers like to complain about teaching grammar. How can I teach grammar in English? For the last about 20 years, even for the recent 3 or 4 years, I just did a survey on student English ability, especially National Zhenzi. I'm still teaching at the National Zhenzi University. Among 40 of students, I just teach the freshman's class, Introduction to Literature. And I did a survey on them. I checked with them, how many of you, out of 40 students, how many of you have ever spoken any English before you enter National Zhenzi University? Among 40. Do you know how many of them? And if you ever spoke any English in your English classes, please raise your hand. Can you guess how many students raised their hand? Most of my students graduate from 北女、中山、雄女、台中女中 and 高雄女中 and 南一中、吴晓明. How many of you raised their hand out of 40? About 5. 5 students just said they ever spoke any English before the senior high school. 90% of them, they say that they never used any English orally, except when the teacher said, repeat after me. When they say, repeat after me, they begin to speak English. And 90% of the class hours, the teacher used Chinese. It's very weird. And you can see that's the English majors at National Zhenzi University. How about the other schools? How about the other majors? So just imagine that your students never got the chance to be exposed to English-friendly environment. They never pick up any English from you. And they never open their mouths to learn the language. In the past, used to use our R in Taiwan or in some of the Northeastern Asia countries like Japan, Korea, and even China. We tend to use our eyes to learn a foreign language, is that right? We don't use our mouths or ears to acquire a language. Is that the normal procedures of acquiring a language? I think that you have learned a lot of theories or pedagogies, either in your bachelor degrees or in your undergraduate or graduate studies. And a lot of professors share with you, or you read a lot of journal articles about communicative approaches. But when you came down to your classroom, you begin to teach what kind of pedagogies or what kind of teaching methods do you use in your classrooms? We just go back to what the teacher from the past used to teach us. You know, one of the articles, Stephen Krashen, yes, just in one of his lectures, he just argued that, I want to check with you, how did you learn how to teach for the past maybe 10 or 20 years? How did you develop your teaching abilities? So how to teach in English or teach English classes? All these kind of methods, all these kind of skill or tricks or whatever. How did you learn that? How do you develop your teaching skills? Based upon researchers just argue that there are two ways we develop our teaching abilities in English classes. The first way is so-called DNA. What does it mean? It's a genes theory. Means that you develop your teaching skill based upon how you used to be taught. You follow the way how your teachers from elementary school, junior high school, and senior high school used to teach us. It's deeply buried in your gene, and you never change that. That's most of the teachers develop their teaching skills in English classes. So, for the past maybe 15 years, I ever attended or walked into the classrooms of more than maybe 200 classrooms from Keelung to Pingtung. And whenever I walk into their classroom, I seem to walk into some kind of time tunnels, time capsules. We essentially went back to the future, went back to the past. That kind of class experience, to me, was like a deja vu. I just walk into that kind of classroom. I seem to attend the classroom I have ever attended when I was a little boy. For instance, how did you teach students to identify the use of A and AN? 50 years ago, I'm old enough, okay? 50 years ago, my teacher told me that you have to use AN in front of vowels. A-E-I-O-U, that's vowels. Those are vowels. And use A in front of consonant, right? In the countable nouns. If that is a countable noun, you have to count A or AN, and then use vowel, A-E-I-O-U, and then use AN. And for the consonant, for the other sound, use A. Is that right? Are you still teaching in that way? Yeah? Come on, that was the way the teachers used to teach 50 years ago. 50 years later, nothing changed. You are still using the same way of teaching your student how to use A and AN. Is that right? So, to your student in elementary school, when you want to use English to teach him when to use A and when to use AN, there are several steps you have to tell them. One, tell them what is consonant, what is vowel. Is that right? That is the first step. Second, tell them that what is countable noun, what is uncountable noun. Is that right? That's the second step. Then they begin to know how to use A and AN to phrase. So they have to develop several layers of knowledge in order to know how to use A and AN. Can you explain that in English to the 7, 8 years old boys and girls and say vowels and consonants and countable and uncountable? So it sounds impossible that you can use English to teach them all these kind of things. Another example is how you have to put S to third person singular verbs. Is that right? 第三人称动词加 S. You have to teach your students, you have to put S, she likes me, I like you. So she is a third person singular. So you have to put S to the verb when at the present tense. But in the first or second person narrative, you don't put S. How can you explain that to your kids? There's no way, is that right? They will be confused. And you have to lecture a lot. They use a lot of so-called cognitive ability to develop that kind of concept in grammar or in usages. So, to me, I just talk with several, have a lot of conversation with the student, with the teacher from elementary school and junior high school. They say it's impossible for us to speak English, to using, the only way we can use English is to use classroom English. It's impossible to instruct, to teach students English through English. Yes, it's impossible. If you teach them a lot of rules, grammars, a lot of usages, by using a lot of terms, how can it be possible, even for the student in junior high school or senior high school, or even in college, students, they don't understand a lot of terms. So, what can we do with this one? I'm going to give you some kind of solutions after about maybe 1 hour lectures or discussion with you. But first, let's come back to why we want to teach English through English. Why do you teach English through English? There are two questions that we need to address here. The first one is our language proficiency course related to our teaching ability? I think you have no problem. Most of you are English majors. You know how to speak English. Your English proficiency is okay. It's perfect. Maybe some of them will speak English better than I do. But how about your teaching ability? Do you think that teaching through English has something to do with your language proficiency or with your teaching ability? If you can speak very good, perfect English, do you think that you still can handle your classroom in English in order to let your students understand your 4, 6, 7 years old boys and girls understand what you mean there? When you say, this is vowel, this is consonant, this is a subject, this is a verb, this is a noun, this is a countable noun, this is an uncountable noun. Yes, your English is perfect. You have no problem with the language. But how are you going to deliver that kind of language to your students who have nothing of the language knowledge, or they have no very limited vocabulary capacity. What will you do? The second one is how about the content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and discourse skills, right? You want to check with them, use class English. It's easy to say, oh, stand up, raise your hand, good morning, how are you doing today? How's the weather today? Okay, eyes on me, eyes on you. That's close to your textbook. That's turn to page 121. That's easy. That's the classroom English. I'm not talking about classroom English. I'm talking about how are you going to communicate with your students in English. That is the key here, right? Okay, to promote the idea or implement the policy of teaching English through English, it's based upon some of this concept, this kind of theory we call communicative language teaching. In this theory, it argues, the scholars argue that the communication must be meaningful. I mean, it must set up some kind of so-called meaningful communication when you talk to your students. They understand you. You have that kind of very comprehensible input in order to trigger some kinds of the response from your students. The second one is that this is a very natural strategy for language acquisition. I always argue, a lot of researchers argue that to use the language is the best strategy of acquiring a language. You sit there, listen to me, you never learn any language. If you don't open your mouth, if you don't speak, there will be no way of acquiring a language through your eyes. Okay, only the mouth and the ears. The second one is this is a learner center. Okay, CRT is a learner center, means it's not you who are learning English. It's your students who are supposed to learn the language. So CRT emphasizes on the fact that in the class, the students have to talk. When I say teaching English through English, it doesn't mean that you have to lecture all the time in English, use the perfect English to lecture, to give a lesson to your student. No. The more important thing is that you have to get your student talking. That is teaching English through English. That's the main ideas of teaching English through English. And skill, emphasize more on skill than systems or language skill. It doesn't matter whether they know consonants or vowels, but they know how to use A and AN. But maybe you a question, if they don't know the knowledge, how can they use A and AN? Is that possible that you don't know why, but you know how? Just question yourself. I don't know why, but I know how. Riding a bike, for example. You know how to ride a bike. Do you know some kind of theory for physical balance? No. You know how to drive a car. Do you know how a Tesla car works mechanically? No. You don't know why it can work, but you know how to drive. So for your students, they must know how to do this, but they don't need to know why to do it. But the problem in our English classroom is that we teach too much of why. We don't ask them to use how to do it. Okay? That's the learner centers. A skill center. And then another one is authentic materials. They must have that kind of thing. If some of English in our textbooks, especially in the textbooks in junior high school are useless. You never, when my son was in the United States, he attended the elementary school in the United States, in San Francisco. One was a visiting scholar at UC Berkeley. He came with me, and one day when he came home, I just tried to check with him. Oh, what's this? We always, that's the first lesson. What's your name, right? And what's this? What's that? Where are you from? Where do you live? When I ask my student, my son, what's this? Where do you live? Those are kind of questions. He just stared at me and say, Daddy, you are an idiot. You don't know what it is? You must be kidding me. So, a lot of sentences we learn from textbooks cannot be used in daily life. Do you understand what I mean here? We never got a chance, except in the classroom, to ask students, what's your name? In real life, in social, I never, as a professor, when I attend a lot of international conference or have a lot of socials with the people from different countries, more than 30 countries, Europe and United States, Southeastern countries. I went there several times to attend the international conference. None of them ever asked me, what's your name? Never. I've never been asked a question, what's your name? But we do practice the sentence, what's your name? My name is. And then we say, my name is. And American native speakers will say that. We never say, my name is Tom. We will say what? I'm Tom. Right? And when you socialize, want to introduce yourself, you will not, what's your name? That is the way you talk to the kid. You will not say that to a professor, your friend. You will say, oh, I'm Chaoming Chen from Taiwan. Nice meeting you. And you will say your name to me, right? So, what's your name? That kind of sentence will never be used when you grow up, when you go outside of class. And 90% of our English in your textbook will never be used in real life. So why do we practice that? Just for what? Practicing grammar, sentence patterns. It's not for real life. There's nothing to do with real life. It is not related to real life situation. So CLT means that you have to relate your learning to real life. It's not just the practice within that kind of very ideal syntax or ideal context. Because if you never go outside the textbook context, you never learn a real life language. Right? So what's the point of learning a lot of garbage in our textbooks? Okay, another one is, if a student begin to open their mouth, begin to talk, they have more motivations to learn the language themselves. Do you know why students learn English? Because you tell them that English is very important in your future. It doesn't work, really, even in college. They said, I want to just, sell chicken steaks in the future. I want to just go to the night market with my father. Why do I have to learn English? Okay, I just want to be a lawyer in Taiwan. I don't need any English to be a lawyer because I'm a local lawyer. Right? Why do I have to learn English? Especially in law school, English, maybe German and Japanese will be more useful to them. But English doesn't, it's not so effective for their own future career. The reason why your students learn English are two. One is that they like you. They learn English because they enjoy staying with you in English classrooms. That is the first, second. But that kind of first reason will last us too long. It lasts only maybe 1 or 2 semesters. And then if they don't have any kinds of so-called achievement, they lose their interest in you, no matter how funny you are. So the sense of achievement is very important for students to pick up, to acquire a language. They feel that I can speak English, I can say something, I can make it, and do something with my English. Then I have some kind of motivation and incentives to learn myself, right? So as a result, if based upon that kind of CLT, the result will be the changing role of your teachers and students. Teachers in communicated classroom will find themselves talking less and listening more, becoming active facilitator of the students' learning. The teacher set up exercise or tasks because the student performance is the goal, and teacher must step back, observe, sometimes acting a referee or monitor. So it's you as students who have to talk. You just step back, encourage them, motivate them to talk. So in your classroom, in the English teaching through English, 70% of your class hours shall be put on students talking, not your lecturing. Only your lecture, your talk, will take only 30% proportion of your class hours. That is the key. That's the learner centers. We are talking about speaking English. We are talking about students speaking English, not you who speak English. You have to change your mindset. The way how we change. I just mentioned there are 2 ways you develop your teaching abilities. One is you learn from your past experience, from your old teacher. The second one you learn from theories, from workshop like this one. But how are you going to change from your old habits to new ones? Depends on what? Your belief. It's a paper entitled A Belief by an English teacher who can change their own way of teaching. Tells us that if you believe that you are going to change students' learning style, that kind of belief is very important. You always, under the influence, teachers are very stubborn people, is that right? You stick to your old belief. You never change. You think this is the best way. If I don't teach you one, they will not learn. And this is the way how my teachers teach me. So I will teach you in this way, and this is the way how I improve. I just get my English better. And this is the way you have to do for the same time or in the same shoes. No. The way how you learn English is totally different from the way how your kids learn the language. Come on, it's about 20, is that right? 20 or 30 years ago. And you still stick to the old style of teaching. Why don't you change a little bit? Okay, let's see the way how you're going. And of course there will anxiety and confusions. Do I teach grammar in English? Right? Okay, let's skip this one. In English classes, your instruction will be, you just tell them something there. Deliver some of the English to them and show them how to do that. And then the learner will do and apply all what you have told them to their practice, to the English, the use of the languages. And I'm going to give you one example, not this one, how to teach through English. Let's go to the second one. Okay, dialogues. Let me show you some of the examples how to teach dialogues through English. Okay, this is those are some kind of the tips. I just give you a short review of so-called what does it mean by teach less, learn more. Okay, so this one. So the dialogue. How do you teach a dialogue? Okay, how many of you spend more than 20 minutes on dialogue? Or you spend how much time do you spend on dialogue in your textbooks? In the past, do you know there's a big change in the sequence of the sections in the textbooks. In your ears, we always have the reading one up first. Then you have reading. And after reading, you have vocabulary, grammars, whatever. At the end of the class, of the lesson, you have dialogue. Is that right? Dialogue is always put at the end. We should believe that dialogue is a practice, the application of what you have learned from the previous reading, vocabulary, grammar, and then you come up to the dialogue. But right now, the textbooks reverse that kind of order. The dialogue, one up, and then dialogue first. And then followed by your reading, so some other activity. Is that right? Vocabulary, grammar. So dialogue comes first, only after the warm-up. So dialogue is a very important part. It's the most important part in your English class. Okay, this is a dialogue. So what are the purpose of dialogue, of teaching a dialogue? Dialogue aims at developing student interest and confidence in using English, and develop students' autonomous learning skills. There are 4 skill competency up to the basic requirement for each stage, starting with phonics, reading aloud, shadowing, cutting long sentences into short one, and daring to open their mouths and reading English books themselves. That is the purpose of dialogue. Listening and speaking. Oral skills. Okay? So, we teach English through English. There are CLT, that's a Korean educational policy. About maybe 20 years ago, they used so-called EMI. EMI. English medium instruction in English classroom. They believe that without teacher talk, there is no language input and consequently no output. Okay, the teacher's use of English will be a catalyst triggering classroom interaction, thus facilitating the students' language use. Okay, so the classroom instruction also has to facilitate communicative language use. It emphasizes language use, interaction, students talk. Everything is about what? It's about students' use of the language. It's not about your teaching. How are you going to motivate, push the student to talk? That is the purpose of so-called CLT. Okay, so I want to argue that in your English class, come on, don't talk too much. Step back. 30% input and 70% output. This idea has been published in many, many academic papers to tell you that if you want to internalize what students have learned into their own mind, especially in terms of learning a language. You just give them 30% input, and they have to produce the outcomes about within 70% of class hours. Okay, do you know why we like to emphasize the Ministry of Education, emphasize a lot for the next 2 years, or even in Taoyuan or around the world, around Taiwan, we want to emphasize a lot on oral skills right now? Do you know that the 2025 PISA is going to test the students' language proficiency, especially oral skills, around the world? And our Ministry of Education are worried that Taiwan will rank very low. If you don't ask students to talk, we have terrible. Japan, Korea, the kids in Korea, Japan, China, and these 4 countries, or these 4 areas, students are frightened by that kind of oral test. But 2025, English will become one of the subjects for PISA in terms of oral skills. That's why we have to get students talking. So, this person, I'm going to show you this YouTube video. Can we just go to this and skip to the 4 minutes and 30 seconds?
So after 6 months living in Spain, I couldn't speak Spanish. So if anything, this just convinced me even more that I don't have this thing, this magic language gene that people are just born with. And then I had an epiphany. And this is what I want to share with people. This is what I'm trying to convince the world. It's not actually about language talent. I really feel language talent is irrelevant. Some people might do it a bit better, but that doesn't matter for you. So what I did was I started to speak Spanish. Now, I don't know if that makes sense right now, but hopefully it will. That the problem was for 6 whole months, I had been studying Spanish. I've been studying it so much that it was making it harder for myself. I kept seeing all these subjunctives and definite articles and things that were just confusing me. And after all the studying, I was nowhere further. I didn't really know any words. 6 months, I was still at the stage of just saying, hola, gracias, por favor, adios, just running off like that. But I just decided I'm going to start speaking the language. I'm going to get all of these excuses and ignore them. That I'm not ready, and it's, I need to work more, or I'm not intelligent enough to learn language. And I just started speaking it. And everything changed. Very, very soon after that, I was gaining momentum. A couple of weeks later, I realized I'm actually doing everything in Spanish. I'm living my life through this language.
So the only way to learn the language is don't have to care about anything. Just start to speak it orally. If once you begin to speak English, you're going to get like a momentum. You will do everything in English. And that's the way you have to show your students how to do that. You speak English in a class and ask them English in a class. At the very beginning, maybe they have very limited vocabulary, don't know what to do. But it's your body language, it's a lot of props to teach you how to do that. For instance, okay, is that good? It is good today? Everyone is good? Yes or no? Yes. Oh, yes. Is she good? Yes. Yes or no? Yes. Is it good? Yes. So students begin to push your students to open their mouth to yes or no, yes, good, or is good, is bad. That's it. I'm Tom. And who are you? I'm Jennifer. What are you? Anne, Jennifer, Christina, John, and then you begin to, spread that kind of messages, trying to go around your students, to ask them, to question them, to give them the chance to expose to that kind of English environment. That's teaching English through English. And you say a vowel, how do you teach the student A-N? It's easy. So an apple, an eraser, a book, a pencil. So students will forget. They say I am. Never say that there will be 3 forms of verb to be. Am, are, is. The first person you have to use am, the second person you have to are, and the third person you have to use singular, you have to use is. And the plural form will be all are. Come on. Students will never remember that. They give up quickly. You say, I am a boy. You are a girl. She is a woman. He is a boy. She is 5 years old. So when they listen to your talk for more than 20 times, say, she is, she. They will say, your kids will say, she is. They will not say, she are. You don't have to tell them grammar. You don't have to tell them that there are 3 forms for verb to be. You don't have to tell them A and AN have to put in front of the vowels. You say an elephant, an eraser, an apple, a pencil. And then you will say, when they come to elephant, they will say an elephant. They will not say a elephant. Because they never heard a elephant. They just heard an elephant. That's it. Just give them the way how to use it. Just start to speak English. Start to speak Spanish. Practice in classroom. Getting them to talk. You have to stage and control your language. What does it mean? Stage. What does that mean, stage? Not speak the language. Control the language, you know that, right? You have to limit your vocabulary, sentence pattern. Don't use a very long sentence. In your elementary school, use not more than 5 words in a sentence. 5 words. If you speak longer sentences, they will forget. Don't use the so-called the relative pronoun. We have to use this kind of platform from which we can do. Don't use that. Don't use more than 5 words. Use 3 to 5 words in your short sentence. So say, oh, this is good, right? So are you done? Are you done? Don't say volunteer. Say anyone, boy, girl, come here. Don't say volunteer. Volunteer, come on. This is a word for high school students, not for elementary school. Don't say, we have to review this lesson today. Don't say review. Okay, we are going to do it one more time. That is controlling your language. Try to simplify the language and use your body, stage the language one more time. They know that we want to do it again. You know what? Any volunteer? Boy, you. Or I want to divide you into 5 groups, and each group will consist of 5 persons. And then you have to find a leader to come over here. Don't say that. Say, you, 4, group 1. You, group 2. Say group 2. Group 2. And you are 1, 2, 3, 4. And number 1, please raise your hand. And they will know that. Okay? Stage your language means what? You have to dramatize your language. Your language should be accompanied by visual aids or body language. Use their facial expression. Look at them, have like eye contact with them, and they know what you mean. Sometimes you don't have to speak anything. You just look at them to show your sincerity, your patience. They will understand. They will, yeah. And they will do that. They will follow you. Okay, stage your language. To get your student talking, use a simple language, give them some kind of options, a lot of things. Just push them to talk. Yes or no. Yeah, eyes on me. And maybe ask them to echo your instruction. Whatever. I like to see your student will become very noisy in using the language. Everyone is talking. Everyone is fighting for talk. And that would be a wonderful classroom situation when you find your students begin to talk to you in English. Just I mentioned that I taught the freshman's introduction to literature at National Zhengzhi University and some more business classes at Zhili University and Shijie University for the past more than 10 years. In the first in the first month, of course, I try to, in Zhengda and Shijie, I use different kinds of speed of speaking language. At Zhengda, I speak very fast, speak at a normal speed. But at Shijie and Zhili, I try to speak slowly. I try to use the simple language from the senior high school or junior high school to communicate with my students. But at Zhengda, the first month, most of students, I have 1/3 of my students are Americans, foreign students, 1/3 of students are from other majors, 1/3 of students are English majors. And local teachers tend to talk to me in Chinese after class, during the break. But I always talk to them in English. 2 or 3 months later, they begin to have some discussions with me in English. And they are stuttering. They don't know how to say that. You just wait patiently and try to give them some hints, some clue. Oh, you mean, you want to take a break, you cannot come, you want my handouts. Okay, I don't give handouts to my students. You have to take notes. I say take notes. Write down what I say in class. I don't give you PPT. Right now, for the past 10 years, I never give any person's PPT, so you don't get any PPT from me, right? But you have to take notes yourself. If you get a PPT, you never show up. Or you begin to surf on your smartphone, right? Or you begin to do something else. Okay, so to get your student talking, I always get my student talk all the time. So, at the end of the class, the student give me the end of the class, the end of the semester, what kind of comments did my student give to me? They just evaluate, in college, they evaluate the teacher's performance, right? They just say, most students just say one word. Professor, we are very busy in class. You have nothing to do. You sit there and keep us so busy with a lot of work. Just I show them that's my purpose. It's you who are learning. It's not mine. I don't have to learn. You have to learn. You keep your student busy with talking. So you design another task. So it's nothing to do with English language proficiency. It's something to do with your teaching ability. Let's come to this one. Okay, so how dialogue? We need to ask several questions. What is a dialogue? Why do we teach a dialogue? Yes, in the class. What can we do with the dialogue? How do you teach it? How much time do we spend on teaching students to learn a dialogue? Okay, why is a dialogue in a textbook? The textbook has something to do with why there is a dialogue in the first part of the textbook. So what do we expect students to learn in a dialogue? Why do we have to learn a dialogue? It's just for students to repeat after me, talk to each other, A say something, B say something. No. It's the way for your student to create, to practice orally. The language orally. For example, hi, what are you doing? Going to the park. Why? To play basketball. Okay, what are you doing? Nothing. Okay, this is a very typical dialogue in junior high school, in elementary school. So in this dialogue, you can find what can you find here? You can find that later in this lesson, we're going to practice present progressive tense. Is that right? Because what are you doing? Why are you doing? What I'm doing? I'm going to the park. I'm playing basketball. I am. Is that right? So this is the practice, the warm-up for later sentence, the tense issues. And there's some kind of real-life situation. So don't do that. Never do that in your classroom. If you forget everything what I say today, just remember, keep this word. Never ask students to say, repeat after me. When you say, oh, repeat after me. Hey, what are you doing? Going to the park. Why? To play basketball. Say to play. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? Nothing. So, dialogue is the way to practice your intonation and the tone. It's not to repeat. Do you know what I mean here? Never say repeat after me. You have to say read for me or read to me. Speak to me. I'm A, you are B. Oh, hey, what are you doing? That's the stage language. I'm going to the park. Why? Dramatize your language. Don't say, why? To play basketball. Oh, to play baseball. Okay. What are you doing? Nothing. Okay. So, dramatize and ask a student to talk to you. Use the phonics. I say that to use the phonics. To ask student to talk to you. Not repeat after me. Don't say, never say, repeat after me. Don't do that kind of exercise, okay? Don't repeat after me. It's meaningless. Okay, second one, example. Amy, where are you? I'm here. I'm in the bathroom. This is for you. Whoa, thank you. It's a dollhouse. Cool. Okay, you must dramatize. Tell you, hey, Amy, where are you? Oh, I'm here. I'm in the bathroom. Oh, this is for you. Wow. Thank you. It's a dollhouse. Wow, cool. So have this kind of real-life conversation. Dramatize. You're practicing intonation and your tone. For students to know that English is a language with rhyme and rhythm. It's not like Chinese. Even in Chinese, we speak language in a very dramatic way. Wow, 这个好棒哦。You say repeat after, 哦，这个好棒哦。Say, 哦，这个好棒哦。This is not a speech. This is just reading. Okay, all the language learning start from the speech. So, that is the only way to push students to listen and to speak. Yes. Okay, sure. Thank you. It's the only way to push students to talk and to listen and to speak. So there are 3 steps in teaching a dialogue. The first one is receptive. Listening for the sound, receptive, you receive. Listening for the sound and the words. Developing students of practicing skills, phonics skills. And the second step is reproductive. Shadowing, learning speech skill, tone, intonation in semi-real-life situation. This is learning situated. And constructive is also called the creative. Developing their comprehension through listening and visual aid and comprehensive input to create their own output. Say by Stephen Crenshaw. There are 3 steps. I show you what kind of 3 steps that you can. For instance, how do you do it? In the first preceptive stage, listening is a phonics practice. Identify the sound and connecting the sound with the picture without the help of Chinese definition or translation. You can use different kinds of worksheet. Ask students to listen for the sound, for the vowels, for any kind of words, and listen all the time. And they do a lot of work for you and play one by one, sentence by one. The second one is shadowing, mimicking, tone and intonation, developing students, learners, the competence in speaking, creating a real-life interaction, reproduction. And then the last one, good work, constructive one, knowing the meaning through the pictures or visual acts, and then picking up some sentence patterns, repetition, practice, and ask low order questions. This is a dollhouse. Where's my mother? Where's my father? He is in the kitchen, she is in the living room, creating their own dialogue, changing some word like a dog house for the doll house. That's my dog, Jimmy. He is in the dog house. Where is Jimmy's son? He's in the dog house. Where is Jimmy's father? He's not in the dog house. So students can create their own dialogue. The group work, create their own dialogue. So there are 3 steps. Listen with ears, speak with your mouth. And then in this kind of practice, in this kind of teaching, do you have to speak a lot? No, you don't have to speak a lot. You don't have to use Chinese to explain. You just show them how to do it. And there are pictures in the textbooks, is that right? In the picture books. So this is dollhouse. You don't have to say, oh, 这是 dollhouse. What's that? 娃娃屋. You don't translate into 娃娃屋. You don't say, this is my father. You don't say, 这是爸爸. Oh, that's cool. And they know what cool means, okay? You don't have to say cool 就是很酷的意思。酷很酷不是就是英文嘛？ It's cool. Wow! They know that wow means, right? Okay, you don't have to tell them. So this is the 3rd step. I'm going to finish that. Final question is why. Okay, we just have the answer for why do you teach dialogue is important and how much time do you spend on. Okay, the last question. How much time do you spend on teaching a dialogue? Anyone? Come on. Anyone? How much time do you spend on teaching a dialogue?
On average, less than 15%. On average, less than 50%.
50%?
Yeah, only.
15 about?
One period is 40 minutes, and that would be 10 or 8 minutes.
Oh, one period about 40 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. How about you? How much time do you spend on a dialogue?
A dialogue for a lesson, I use like 3 classes.
3 classes?
For a lesson.
For lessons. How about, but how about the part, the dialogue?
The part of the dialogues,
Okay, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
Okay. Let me tell you that the dialogue is the starting point to initiate students' learning in using the language. So I suggest that you spend more time on dialogue. Because once students practice orally, and when they come to the reading part, all the sentence patterns will be repeated in the reading part. So why don't you use the dialogue as a kind of starting point to get your students talk? So the main idea about teaching English through English is not about your English. It's about your teaching ability. It's about students talking. Do you understand what I mean here? Get your students talking. That is the key. That is the most important part in teaching English through English. We need students to open their mouth. So dialogue is very important. How about reading grammar? How do you teach grammar in English? You don't teach them knowledge. You give them 20 sentences in the same sentence patterns, in the same grammar, and they pick up that kind of grammar unconsciously. You don't have to teach them rules. You don't explain a lot. Do you know how many words, countable words, nouns, you have to use an in elementary school, only 5. So don't give them rules, say vowel and consonants. Give them 5 words. All these 5 words, use an, the other, a, that's it. Do you understand what I mean here? And students will know what I mean. An elephant, an orange, an eraser, and what? An apple. That's it. 4 or 5 words. In elementary school, only 5 words. With an, the other are with what? A. Don't tell them vowels and consonants. And at, in, at, on, in. Don't say that at is on one point, in is in one place, on is on the surface of this one. Don't say on a table, in what in the classroom at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. Give them example. How many examples do you have to give them in order for them to pick up that kind of usage unconsciously? Based upon study, 20. 20 examples. Give them 20 sentences. And they repeat that kind of 20 sentences orally. Then you don't have to teach them grammar. Trust me. Okay? The only thing is that whether you don't trust me or not, whether you want to believe that you can change, whether you want to walk out of your comfort zone or not, that has something to do with teaching English through English. It's easy. Laziness is human nature. But as a teacher, we have two things to do. One is to keep learning ourselves. The other is giving students the chance to perform, to practice, to make some kind of achievements on their own. That's your job. It's not your job to teach a lot. It's your job to help students learn something for themselves. Okay. In your class, your student must talk. That is the essence, that is the key to success in teaching English through English. Okay, I stop here and thank you for your attention. Thank you.